My teenage son tried to take his own life, now my husband wants to punish him. Only people with children know what it's like to have kids and feel like there's a part of your heart living outside of you, walking around vulnerable to all the dangers of the world. You can try and protect your children in every way you can think of, but I've learned there are some things a parent cannot protect their child from. I've been married to my husband for 22 years, and we have 2 teenage boys. I love my babies more than anything in this world. They're special, but they couldn't be more different when it comes to their personalities. My oldest, Zach, is a well-adjusted, positive, outgoing kid. He is captain of his school's baseball team, and he has a great group of friends that I love. He is also a terrific older brother to my youngest, Michael. Ever since Michael was little, I knew he was a unique, sensitive kid. Even when he was a toddler, he would get frustrated and cry easily, and he wet the bed until he was almost 13 years old. Now at 16, Michael suffers from a lot of anxiety and bouts of depression. He was always a mellow kid. When he was little, he never threw tantrums. He would just lie down wherever he was and stare off into space. Ever since he started going through puberty, Michael has had episodes where he is basically unable to get out of bed. It started when he was around 12. He wouldn't get out of bed in the morning, and when I would go up to check on him, I would find him wrapped in his blanket just staring at the wall. I would ask him what was wrong, how could I fix it, and all he could tell me was that he was sad and he didn't know why. I got him into therapy the same year these episodes started, and he's been in regular therapy with his same trusted therapist ever since. My husband has been basically absent from Michael's psychiatric care. He has said before that he doesn't believe in depression and thinks this is just a phase that Michael will grow out of. He doesn't know how to talk to Michael about it, and he just ignores Michael's issues, and anytime I try to bring up Michael's mental health, my husband brushes me off. It's like he's chosen to simply not acknowledge that part of our son. But I can't, and I do everything I can to help my baby. It's my husband's fault he has no relationship with his son. He will even scold Michael sometimes for staying in bed, and I always tell him to leave him alone and that he's not helping. He doesn't have a strong relationship with Zach either, since he gets upset when my husband is impatient towards Michael. My husband's carelessness towards Michael infuriates me, but at least Zach does everything he can to care for his brother. He has always been very protective of him, and when Michael is having a bad week, Zach will sleep on his floor every night and just spend time with him. He puts on movies and YouTube videos for them to watch together, and he tries his best to convince Michael to get out of the house. But I know it's hard for Zach to see his brother dealing with such intense psychological issues, and over the years we've had lots of talks about how we can best support Michael when he's not well. It's been years, but Michael still deals with the same issues. He'll have a good couple of weeks, then one day, he won't come down for breakfast and I know he's back in a hole. It breaks my heart to watch this as his mother. I would do anything to take this pain away from my baby. We have tried multiple antidepressants, different therapists, and specialists, but nothing seems to help. When he is active, he's a perfect, brilliant kid. I know he struggles with a lot of social anxiety at school, but he doesn't let it affect his grades, and he's a A student. He's a bright boy, he loves reading nonfiction, and he has a lot of collected knowledge on a range of topics. He loves history, and I know he will have a bright future. One day we were in the kitchen, and I was listening to him enthusiastically talk about what he learned in history class that day. Out of nowhere, he said, "If I grow up, I think I want to become a history professor." The words hit me like a brick, and I immediately stopped what I was doing, turned to him, and asked why he used the word if I told him he was going to grow up into a strong, healthy man, and he had his whole life ahead of him. He just shrugged, and I wrapped him in the tightest hug I could give him without hurting him. As you can see, my son is fragile, he needs patience, and he is very emotionally vulnerable. That's why I could unalive my husband when I think about what he did to him, and everything that happened because of his cruelty. Am I the a-hole for not caring if my husband cheated on me? +2 updates. I have a very strong opinion that if my significant other wants to cheat, I won't stop them. If they need to be stopped, they're not worth my love. I deeply believe I deserve someone who 100% willingly wants to be with me and wouldn't fall for temptation. Let's say it falls under my responsibility to try and stop them if I knew they're going to cheat, but what about if I didn't know? I'm married. We have been together for 4 years and married for 6 months. We just moved to a new apartment and little by little we have been renovating it. We're both crafty and we want to create our dream home. We became friends with our neighbors. Also a couple. The woman is very beautiful and bubbly and I got along very well with her. She said she envied us renovating since her husband doesn't really like these things and refuses to give her money to start her own projects. She's a stay-at-home mom. I don't know about her situation with her husband, but the closer we got to them, the more I sensed that he's very careful with money. I get what she means, although I don't think he is financially abusive. Both my husband and I work. My husband works a lot from home. I have noticed that my neighbor is getting more friendly with my husband, instead of how it started as a friendship with me. She is very flirty and she seems to have more and more in common with my husband, especially the things I don't really like hiking, but even the smallest things like food or sweets. She has so much in common with him, as she has put it many times. Since she's a stay-at-home mom, she started making my husband his favorite food, and my husband has said on many occasions how nice it is that she cooks. Twice I came home and she's in there with my husband, helping him with the renovations or has just brought him lunch. My husband doesn't seem bothered at all, so it makes me think nothing is happening between them, yet. I was telling this to my mom and she got so angry at my indifference. She said that I should ban my neighbor from being around my husband and tell him not to talk to her again. I told her that I wanted a husband who doesn't want to cheat. There are 4 billion women out there and I can't stop him from seeing all of them. He's the only one who can decide if his marriage is worth it. My mom called me deranged and she is very upset with me. I don't know what to do. I have made my opinion clear to my husband that I didn't appreciate our neighbor hanging around with him and I even started to cook more at home. Other than that, I don't plan on having a contest with women to win my husband. I always believe if they can take him, they can keep him. My heart is full of love for him and I can't even imagine myself cheating on him even if I was in a room full of handsome men. I just want the same in return. He hasn't done anything yet, but he has texted with her a few times. Nothing flirty, but they have texted. I hate it, but I don't know. My mom said I'm enabling this just to see if he cheats and then discard him, but all I wish is that he chooses me. Update 1. To see what would happen, I accidentally on purpose left my gym bag at home, asked my manager if I could have a couple of hours break around lunch, and sure enough, my neighbor was in my kitchen eating lunch with my husband. My husband looked nervous and guilty and said, "Yeah, we're having lunch here." They had the leftovers from yesterday's dinner and they've ordered a pizza because we didn't have enough leftovers for 2. So she didn't even make him lunch this time. I just said that I was there to bring my gym bag and left. Now I'm sitting in my car shaking. My stomach and heart are aching. He has called 3 times but I just couldn't answer. He texted me this: "I know you don't like it when she's here, but you have nothing to worry about. I love you." Now I'm trying to calm my nerves before driving back to work. He knows that. I don't like it when she's there, and yet the few times I've left work early she's been there, which means she's probably always there when he's working from home. Which means even if he knows I hate it, he still does it. We have been married for 6 months. I know the first year is always hard, but I don't know. We are in our 30s and we don't have children yet. We only own our apartment together. Maybe this wasn't meant to be. Maybe it's better to call it a day now before there's more to lose. My mom will probably call me deranged again if I tell her how I'm feeling. But I'm very, very turned off by this. She can keep him. I have just sent him this text: "I love you, but I can't do this. I don't trust you with my heart anymore. I don't think we're compatible because our definition of love, respect, boundaries, and friendship is obviously very different. We probably need to call it a day before we're even more entangled and it gets more complicated. I need space to think. Please respect that and I will talk to you when I'm ready to discuss our future." He just called 3 times more than texted. Please don't do this to us. I love you. You're the love of my life. Please don't throw everything away in a moment of anger. Be angry with me, but come home and be angry. Take it out on me. Fight me. Hit me. If you only knew how much I love you and how nobody else in this world matters to me. Come home. I didn't answer because I don't know what to say. I'm going to bed. I just want to cry. I don't want him to text or call. Update 2. It's Sunday morning and I'm back home. My husband is staying with his parents. Yesterday he showed up at my sister's, puppy-eyed and all, with takeouts from my favorite restaurant, flowers, chocolate and ice cream. He started apologizing and saying that he loved me and that he would never hurt me. I asked him to start being honest with me, if he had feelings for her and if they've done something. He swore nothing happened and that he doesn't have feelings towards her. I told him that he wasn't honest because why would he let her in my home, knowing how much it would hurt me? If he had no feelings for her, why risk your marriage? He couldn't answer that more than that he didn't think it was bad since he was secure in his feelings and in our marriage. He then admitted that he liked the attention. So he knew before she admitted it that she liked him? He gave me his phone and all his texts and told me to see how he never once flirted or made any advances. I don't know. I was very sad reading and hearing all this. I told him that they disrespected me. Her last text to him is that she loved him and she would make him happier than I ever could. There were also messages with mean things about me to him, and instead of confronting her he ignored her or laughed it off. When I asked him about it he apologized and said she was obviously jealous, so I didn't want to engage. I told him that I wanted separation because I didn't trust him anymore. He begged me not to. Then he said that I should at least come back to my home and he would live with his parents. He also asked if I could promise him not to start divorce yet and just be separated for a while so we could go to couples counseling. He said that he messed up very badly and wants me to give him time to make it right again and not just divorce him yet. I moved back home this morning and he was here. We had breakfast and he left for his parents. I didn't want him to kiss me. He will be coming home when he needs to work in the office and probably if we start therapy. On these days I can be at my sister's. She was more than happy to help. Now I don't want to see him for a while.
My Christian wife wants to send our teen daughter to conversion camp because she's lesbian. When my daughter found out, she did something horrible. My wife has always been really religious and that never bothered me before, but she went too far last night. Our daughter said she had something really serious to talk to us about. She ended up coming out to us as a lesbian. I was really glad that she was able to trust us with something like this because I could tell she was really nervous during our talk. I told her that her sexuality doesn't change how we feel about her in any way, that we were proud of her, and we would always support her. By the end of it, she hugged us and said she loved us. Then she went to her room and I asked my wife how she felt because I noticed that she was very silent throughout the whole conversation. She only nodded and agreed to what I was saying. She said that she needed some time to think about what was discussed. I told her there was nothing to think about. Our daughter is a lesbian and there's nothing we can do about that besides support her and be happy for her. It's as simple as that. She just kept repeating that I needed to give her time to process all of this. I have never seen my wife act this way before and it caught me off guard. I do know that she's struggling to deal with this because she's Christian and thinks that homosexuality is inherently wrong, but she never expressed malicious intent. Even so, this is our daughter we're talking about and she has to deal with this in the best way possible. Today, my wife acted very cold and harsh towards my daughter. Whenever my daughter tried to talk to her, she would ignore her and only respond when my daughter badgered an answer out of her. She came to me to talk about my wife's behavior and she said that she thinks telling us was a bad idea because her mom is acting really weird around her. She thinks that her mom hates her now. I tried my best to reassure her that her mom loves her. And we just have to give her time to adjust to this new change. I told her that I was going to talk to her mom about it, but everything was going to be okay in the end. Me and my big mouth. Later that night, I was talking to my wife and demanded to know why she was treating our daughter like she had just done something horribly wrong. She answered by saying that what she was doing was wrong. We needed to send her to a conversion camp immediately to help her realize she was committing so many sins, and she wasn't going to go to heaven now. I was shocked. I told her she was going to put her own feelings aside for the sake of our daughter because she is 16 and needs all the love and support we have to offer. I wasn't going to let her make our daughter feel like a bad person for something she can't control. It took so much courage for our daughter to tell us, given that she also knows that my wife is religious. How do I get my wife to accept my daughter's sexuality and stop viewing it as a bad thing? Update: it's been over 2 years since my original post, and over 1 year since I lost my daughter to suicide. My wife couldn't accept my daughter for who she was and was really adamant on sending her to conversion camp. My daughter found out and cried a lot. She said she wished she was straight so that her mom could love her. That broke my heart. I kept having talks with my wife to get her behavior to change, but she kept avoiding my daughter like she was the plague. The final straw was when I saw her searching up the nearest conversion camps and calling them. We got into a huge fight and told her there was no coming back from this. So, we began the divorce process. She moved out and went to live with her parents, whom my daughter absolutely adored. They of course sided with my wife when they found out, resulting in my daughter being even more devastated. The amount of nights where I held my daughter in my arms as she cried herself to sleep at night asking why she had to be the way she was, why her mother hated her, asking again and again if I hated her despite how many times I would tell her I love her unconditionally, including her sexuality, were too many to count. I put my daughter into actual therapy to help her try to process all of this. I cut back my work shifts to work less hours to try to be there for her. I tried to keep anything related to the divorce as private as I could because I didn't want her stressing about that even more. I keep on thinking what I could have done to stop that day. What else I could have done, what else I could have said. Every day I wake up thinking I should have done more. She left a note explaining how it's not my fault, but what else am I supposed to think? I haven't talked to my ex-wife for 8 months now. I'm in therapy, but to be honest I don't think it's working. Sometimes I wander into her room, sit on her bed, and sob for what feels like hours. I keep on expecting to see her walk home from school. To see her smile, to hear her laugh from down the hall. I miss you more than anything, Jesse. I'm sorry. My hypocrite wife asked me to swing with another couple, so I left her and married the other woman. Ever since the start of this year, my wife has been bugging me for one very unusual thing. She keeps asking me to try and open our marriage for a short time. She says it will bring strength and integrity to our relationship in the long run. But I am not stupid, and know that what she is saying is ridiculous. An open relationship is just an excuse to cheat, and never works out unless both the parties are in from the start. I have told her this, and denied her request multiple times, but she keeps bringing it back. And 6 months ago, she officially took it too far. I invited a good friend of mine and his wife to have dinner at our house. Everything was going well, except for the fact that my wife seemed to be flirting with him. I was disgusted with my wife's behavior. She knew that not only me, but his own wife was in the same room, and yet she did it anyway. Thankfully, my friend didn't respond to her attempts and instead decided to leave early without having any drinks. I confronted my wife about her actions, and her response was basically if you have a problem with it, then that's your issue. I got really mad at her, and told her that if she kept this up, I'm going to leave her. After hearing that, she got really defensive and accused me of being controlling. After even more back and forth, she got to the real issue. Basically, she wanted us to have intimacy with that couple, but in a swinging way. Which means that I would sleep with his wife, while my wife sleeps with him. In my eyes, however, that was clearly cheating, so I obviously refused. But that incident opened my eyes and I knew that my marriage was over. For the next month, I acted like the perfect husband for my wife, catering to her every wish. But behind the scenes, I was secretly getting all my finances in order so I can divorce her without losing half my money. Honestly, the way she acted made me believe that she had already cheated on me, and the open relationship thing was basically her making sure that I would never find out. That is why I didn't want to give her anything in the divorce. Had she been a different person who truly loved me, I would be happy to give her more than half, but that wasn't the case. She was completely blindsided by my decision to divorce her when I finally told her, and was unable to extract any concessions from me. My legal team had come through with the perfect defense, and I came out without losing anything. I didn't tell my family and friends about the real reason for the divorce, however, so for a short amount of time everyone was against me. But I managed to convince them that divorce was the best option for the both of us. So finally, my wife was completely out of my life. I spent a few weeks taking care of myself and getting my mental health to its best condition. Then, I began going out and met a woman at a nearby bar. It was the wife of my good friend, the one with whom my ex-wife had proposed the swinging arrangement. I went up to her and we clicked like a new charger in the charging port. She had also divorced her husband, and was as single as I was. We went home but didn't hook up. Instead, we just watched a movie and fell asleep on the couch. Spending time with her felt like I was actually having fun. It wasn't until this moment that I realized I always walked on eggshells around my ex-wife. That was because I didn't want the drama she would create every time I raised my voice about something. Anyway, this new woman quickly became my girlfriend. It was around this time that my ex-wife had the audacity to contact me and ask if I wanted to get back together. I told her the truth, that I was dating the woman that she wanted me to sleep with so she could go sleep with another man. It was like I broke the dam. She completely blew up my phone, accusing me of infidelity. She said that I was probably sleeping with her even while married, and that's why I divorced her. I was such a loving wife to you, but you had to go and cheat on me. You need to break up with her right now or else I will expose you to your entire family. In that situation, I did what any man would do. I took my new girlfriend on a vacation and proposed to her. I said that even though we haven't been together for long, I know that she is the one for me, and I want to marry her. She said yes. I was so ecstatic and immediately uploaded pictures of the ring on her finger to my social media. My ex-wife saw it, and once again blew up with jealousy. This time, I pointed out that she was actually a hypocrite. She was always the one who proposed an open relationship because she wanted to sleep with other men. And she's only accusing me of infidelity as a way to deal with her guilt. I told her to leave me and my fiancé alone, and that she should also go out there and find herself a man who will deal with her craziness.
My husband demanded an open relationship because I was too old for him. About a year ago my husband Matthew stated that he wanted us to open our marriage. His reasoning was that he was no longer sexually attracted to me and couldn't have an orgasm because I'm too loose. He didn't want us to get a divorce because he still loved me. He insisted that we continue being a happy couple that did not act sexually with one another. We would have our intimate needs met by someone who we could consider to be our other partner. I was initially hurt by this because when he explained his reasoning he didn't miss a beat when insulting me. I was no longer attractive to him because I was old, even though I was only 34. I agreed to the open marriage because I love him and didn't want to lose him. A brief set of the rules that we agreed on: once we find a partner, we have to introduce our partners to each other. We can have intimacy with other people, but in order for it to be considered okay, we'll have to tell each other about it. If in an intimate relationship with someone, we must get tested regularly. We don't have sex with our partner in our home. We can build emotional relationships with someone, but can't be taken as far as love. We show our partners the rules and explain our boundaries. We do not call our partner pet names. A couple weeks after Matthew insisted we open our marriage, he brought home his partner Jamie. Jamie is so pretty. He looks like an angel. I had never been more intimidated in my life and the introduction was so embarrassing. I had no idea what to say and I just wanted to cry. I literally witnessed my husband's type change in front of my eyes. Jamie and I are complete opposite, physically and personality-wise. Yesterday I came home on my lunch break to take a quick nap before returning to work and came home to find my husband and Jamie having intimacy in our bed. I was shocked and didn't really know what to do, so I just left and went back to work. I honestly wasn't even tired anymore. As I was walking into work, I saw that I was being bombarded with texts and calls from them both, so I just turned my phone off. I got out of work around 9 at night, but I didn't want to go home. I went to a movie and just drove around afterwards. I fell asleep on the side of the road and returned home at 8 a.m. this morning to get ready for work. When I walked in, I saw Matthew and Jamie at the table. Jamie looked sad while Matthew looked pissed. I told them good morning and went and got ready for work. Matthew followed me yelling, saying that what I did was wrong and my reaction was compelled, uncalled for. He told me I was being overdramatic and had him up all night worried because I wanted to act like a child. I don't know what came over me, but I stopped him mid-sentence and asked for a divorce. You don't love me anymore and I don't want to love you. I'm so lonely and I never had anyone nitpick my appearance more than you. If you aren't sexually attracted to me, then marry someone you are sexually attracted to. I want a divorce. He looked shocked and told me that I didn't know what I was saying and that I was just tired. When he tried walking me to the bed, I really got mad. I smacked his hand away and left again. My husband wanted to open up our marriage, so I started dating his boss. Now he wants to close it. Let me just start by saying that I didn't mean to start dating his boss. It all happened accidentally. My husband and I have been married for almost 8 years now. We have always had a healthy marriage and a great intimacy life, or so I thought. It came completely out of the blue when my husband sat me down a couple months ago and said that he was feeling unsatisfied with our physical connection, and he needed something more to be able to feel fulfilled. I was so confused. We are intimate a couple times a week and he never gave any indication that he was feeling unhappy in the bedroom. I was feeling hurt before he even dropped the bomb on me that he wanted to open up our marriage. I felt so small and unwanted as he rambled on about wanting to experience more freedom, but he assured me that he loved me and he wanted to stay together. I asked him why I wasn't enough for him, and if there was anything I could change to make him happier in the bedroom or in our marriage in general. But all he said was that it had more to do with his masculinity than me. This didn't make me feel better, but I love him and we had already been together for so long. So reluctantly, I agreed and we decided to be open from that day on. Our only terms was that we had to disclose to the other would start seeing other people. The first couple weeks were excruciating. He immediately started seeing a woman from his office and I would just stay at home and cry myself to sleep while I pictured him out with a younger, more attractive woman. I was devastated for a while and I honestly had zero interest in dating anyone other than my husband. But after 5 months of him dating his one girlfriend, and spending most nights with her instead of at home with me, I decided that I deserved to experience some freedom as well. I made a Tinder account one night while he was out with his girlfriend. I was surprised when I got over 100 matches on the very first night. No one was really catching my attention until matched with this one, very handsome older man. He seemed very successful and he was a gorgeous silver fox. I ended up messaging him and we went out a couple of days later. I remember the feeling of waiting for him at the bar. It felt nice to have romantic butterflies for the first time in almost a decade. The date went amazingly and we continued seeing each other and eventually slept together. It was one of the most thrilling, erotic nights of my life. I hate to say it, but he was a much more talented lover than my husband, I guess because he was older and had more experience. Anyway, I told my husband about my boyfriend and it honestly seemed like he didn't believe me. He literally patted me on the head and said, "Aw, good for you honey," before heading out the door to spend the night with his girlfriend. Anyway, things got messy in a way I could have never anticipated. I knew this situation was already sort of rocky, but now I truly feel like I'm living inside a soap opera. Yesterday my boyfriend texted me asking if he had left a manila folder in my car the last time we saw each other. I found the folder and he asked if I could drop it off at his job. I was off that day and I figured they were important work documents, so I gathered the folder and a little snack and he sent me his location so I could come drop it off. You can imagine how stunned I was when I followed the address and it took me to my husband's place of work. I had no idea that he and my husband worked together. All I knew was that he was the head of whatever company he worked for, and he held the highest position in his office. He never spoke much about his work and we just liked to relax when we hung out together. Well, I walked into the office feeling awkward about possibly seeing my husband. Well, I walked to my boyfriend's office and he came out to take the folder from me. He thanked me and gave me a little kiss before going back into his office. When I turned around, of course, my husband happened to be walking by at that exact moment. He had obviously seen his boss kiss me and realized that he had been my boyfriend all along. His mouth made a perfect O shape and there was hurt creeping into his eyes. I felt sort of embarrassed at that moment even though I had done nothing wrong, so I just said hi to my husband quickly and left the office. When my husband finally got home, he broke down in tears and asked how I could do this to him. I reminded him that this entire situation was his idea in the first place. That's when my husband said that he was willing to close the marriage if it meant I would stop seeing his boss. The thing is, I have real feelings for my boyfriend, and I feel like my husband is being controlling and unfair. I find myself doubting my entire marriage and I think I might end up having to choose between the two of them.
My sister attacked my wife, and my mom is holding our financial documents hostage because of it. My wife and I have been together since December 2019. Ever since then, we have had nothing but problems with my family, particularly my mom and my one sister, as well as occasionally my brother, sister-in-law, and dad. My wife and I have talked multiple times in the past few years about whether we feel like it has gotten to the point of us needing to go no contact, but haven't pulled the trigger quite yet. This past weekend, however, and the aftermath, are having us seriously consider it. My wife and I were asked to help with a home project for my brother and sister-in-law's new house. The only supplies that were brought for said project was one single paint sprayer, and one single roll of painting tape, even though we had 7 people at various points who were there to help. My wife, my mom, my sister-in-law, and I started taping up the parts that needed covering, and my brother started painting behind us. There wasn't a whole lot to tape, so once we finished there wasn't anything to do other than sit around and wait. Eventually my sister starts painting, and my wife and I decide around 7 p.m. that it would probably be smart to try to order food for everyone. My wife is with one group on one side of the year talking about food orders, and I am on the other side with my mom and sister. My wife heard them yelling, and concerned that something was happening, so she came over and asked what was going on. Here is a play-by-play of this conversation. Sister, hands me paint sprayer, your turn. Me, oh, okay. I thought I was supposed to go get food? Sister, too bad. Mom, I did ask you to help paint. Me, well, I did help tape. Mom, well, I didn't ask you to help tape, I asked you to help paint? Didn't I? Me, I suppose. Wife, what are you guys yelling about? Mom, oh, we were just giving him crap. Wife, oh, okay, it just sounded like yelling. Sister, he can talk to his family. Without you. It's none of your effing business. Wife, huh? Sister, you have no right to be at effing beach to my mom, it's none of your business, and he can talk to his family without you around. Wife, I was just asking a question about my husband, is there a problem with that? Sister, you don't get to talk to my mom like that, you beach. Wife, again, I was asking a simple question about my husband. Sister takes a couple steps towards wife walks towards sister. Sister is literally centimeters from wife's face. Wife places her hand on sister's chest and tells her to back off, and then sister starts swinging. Basically, my sister started swinging on my wife, and my wife put her hands up to block her face and accidentally landed a blow on my sister in the face. After this, I pulled my sister back, and my wife stepped back. My sister was yelling things like she hurt me, call the cops etc. After my sister eventually seemed to calm down, I let her go, and she lunged at my wife again, and this time got a swing in. I pulled her back again, and then my brother and sister-in-law walked up and started yelling at my wife. Sister-in-law says that my wife is making them look like trash to their new neighbors, and my brother tells us to get off his property. My mom started yelling at my wife telling her she was being a bitch, and that she had no right to come at her like that, even though my wife hadn't even moved yet from the spot where she was standing. Fast forward, over the past few days we have gotten many text messages and phone calls. The gist of those is basically continuing to blame my wife, and telling me that I am a terrible brother, son, and uncle. Additionally, we need some old tax forms for some financial paperwork we need to fill out, and while my wife's parents sent those to us as soon as they were able, my parents are holding them hostage and flat out refusing to give them to us. I was told that I would have to drive an hour to their house to retrieve them, and have a conversation with my mom, and that my wife was not welcome to this conversation. Additionally, my wife is no longer welcome in their house. When we called and asked if my mom could please just email them to us, we need them, her exact response was maybe. Withholding our financial documents feels like it should be a last straw for me, but it's really hard, and I want to make the right choice.
My husband wanted to open up our marriage, so I started dating his boss. Now he wants to close it. Part 3. It didn't take me long after my husband called from the police station to make my decision. I hung up my phone, sat down, and stared at myself in the mirror for a while, thinking about what I should do. I looked into the mirror, trying to see myself as my husband did, then trying to see myself as my boyfriend did. I realized my husband loved me for the things I could do for him, for the ways which I had served him during our marriage. He never loved me for my personality or my accomplishments. On the other hand, after we told each other we loved each other for the first time, my boyfriend listed the specific things he loved about my personality. My boyfriend would hold my face in his hands every time I saw him, and thank me for my time and for my existence. I started to cry when I realized my boyfriend had been giving me the love I had been searching for my entire life. He made me feel more wanted and beautiful than my husband had ever made me feel in almost 10 years of marriage. I cried harder when I realized that I was watching the death of my old life. My husband had been slipping through my fingers for so long, but I hadn't been ready to let him go until this very moment. This was an intense moment of clarity for me, and even though I knew the decision was life-changing, I decided to go visit my boyfriend in the hospital instead of bailing out my husband. When I got to the hospital and saw my boyfriend with a large bandage across his head, I cried and apologized to him for his injury being my fault. He reassured me that this was my husband's fault and there was no way either of us could have predicted he would fly off the handle like that. I immediately told him I was leaving my husband, that I could never stay with someone so violent who had hurt him like this. At this point, my boyfriend and I had been dating for about 9 months, but when I thought about leaving my husband, I thought more about my own life than my boyfriend and I's relationship. Even if I didn't feel this strongly about my boyfriend, I would have always left my husband for attacking another man and making a scene like this at his job. If I learned anything from the past year, it was that I only needed myself, and that I deserved to feel valued and cherished in any relationship. I went home with my boyfriend that night and cared for his injury. The next day, I got right to looking for divorce lawyers. I knew my husband's family would be bailing him out soon, so I returned to our house and packed all my essentials before reserving a hotel room for the next week. I ended up barely staying in the hotel room since my boyfriend insisted that I would be more comfortable at his place. I wanted to be there for him as he healed, and things just felt so right with my boyfriend, so I ended up staying at his place after leaving my husband. I never left, and the last time I spoke with my husband directly was the day he called me from the police station. He tried to contact me after getting bailed out, even blowing up my phone when he got home and found half my stuff gone. But I didn't care. His mistakes meant nothing to me now, and a month after he was arrested, he was served with divorce papers. I could not believe my ears after I learned that my ex-husband had returned to his old job to confront my boyfriend in the parking lot on the day he was served with divorce papers. Luckily my boyfriend was able to defend himself against my unathletic ex, and he was arrested again. Apparently, the police had found a knife on him, and he had been screaming at my boyfriend for ruining his life. I was so scared for my boyfriend when I heard about this. He could have easily been seriously injured, and I thanked God for sparing him. Yet I wasn't shocked that my boyfriend had been able to defend himself against my husband. Though he is older than my husband, he is much more fit and agile. At this point, the court granted us both restraining orders against him, and all this evidence made our divorce speedy. The next thing I knew, my ex-husband was serving jail time, while I was selling out house and splitting the profit between us. Even though everything that happened was so stressful and traumatic, after a couple of months, things slowed down, and I found myself enjoying a peaceful life with my boyfriend. He welcomed me into his spacious penthouse apartment with open arms. He had told me he didn't expect me to give him all my time after my marriage had just ended, but he loved having me around and told me I never had to leave. Every day when he came home from work, he would give me a deep kiss and a tight hug and tell me how much he loved coming home to me. It's been about a year since my divorce was finalized, and I have started thinking seriously about my future with my boyfriend. He has spent every day that he's known me and treated me like a goddess, and I'm so grateful that we found each other despite everything. He has told me that he would love to make me his wife one day, but only when I'm ready. He always prioritizes my feelings, and I can't believe I accepted anything less than this true love for so long in my life.
My entitled wife baby trapped me for my money. When I found out, I divorced her and now she's on the streets. I married my wife a few months ago. The first few weeks of our married life were great since we were spending a lot of time together. But out of nowhere, she began going out with her friends more than before. The reason I say this is because the last time she went out to a party without me was 2 years ago, so I was understandably worried. I had to go to work during the day, and she would be out partying during the night, so we began spending less time together. And even though I would ask her if she had fun or where she went, she would always change the topic and not answer my questions. I own a number of large businesses and have to constantly focus on them, so I can't really take time off unless there's a national holiday. But I really do love my work, so it's not a big deal for me. Although, something that was bugging me was that I hadn't been intimate with my wife for nearly a month. That is why I was so surprised when she told me she was pregnant out of nowhere. I brought up our bedroom life and that it was unlikely she was pregnant, but she said she had taken multiple tests. It was unexpected since we weren't planning a baby, but I was going to take full responsibility. I immediately made arrangements at work so I could attend to my wife and make sure she was comfortable at home. I also made an account for my soon-to-come baby in which I was going to deposit money for his or her future. My wife had also stopped going out and was more willing to spend time with me, so I was really happy. But then, my sister-in-law asked to meet up. She was my wife's sister, and they were so close that I would call them best friends. At first I thought that she wanted to talk about my wife's pregnancy, or maybe surprise her with some gifts for the baby, so I was excited to meet her. That's why I didn't bat an eye when she asked me to keep our meeting a secret. We decided to meet at a cafe. But as soon as she walked in, I noticed that she had a guilty look on her face. I asked her if she was alright, and she said that she has something she needs to tell me. I am tired of hiding the truth from my sister. I have seen how much you love her, and it's unfair to you. She has actually been having an affair with someone else. And this baby, she confessed to me that she's trying to trap you. She's planning on divorcing you after the baby is born and take a majority of your assets. My first instinct was to yell at her, because I thought that my wife would never do that. But I was shown proof in the form of text messages. She was literally bragging to her sister about how I had no suspicion about her activities. In those texts, she admitted that she only married me because I was a successful businessman with riches, and would never look at me again after divorcing me. I was also shown videos that my wife sent from her so-called parties, in which she was grinding on another guy. I don't understand why my wife would do that to me. I loved her and gave her my everything. In my head, I was working hard so that we, as in my wife and I, won't have any problems in the future. But while I was doing that, my wife was sleeping with another man and plotting against me. I was so distraught that I just broke down right there in public. My sister-in-law had to comfort me while I cried. I didn't want to go home to my wife right now, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So my sister-in-law said that I could sleep at her place for a while. She was single and living in a modest apartment that was a far cry from the house I bought for my wife and I, but I didn't care. She didn't judge me for being sad and crying over something like this, so her house was like a safe haven for me. I stayed there for 2 days, ignoring the calls and messages from my wife. But eventually, I decided that I had to confront her. I asked my sister-in-law to send me the evidence and went back home. Truth be told, there was still a part of me that hoped these texts and videos were fake, and that my wife was loyal to me. But I was being naive. I asked her if she was being unfaithful and if she didn't love me. Her reaction was, of course, to deny everything and accuse me of being controlling and toxic. Then I showed her the videos. At first, she tried to say that I forged them, saying things like I was destroying our life even though she was currently housing my baby inside her. But eventually, she did admit that she was having an affair for a short while. I knew that the short part was a lie, but I couldn't show her the texts as that would compromise her sister's identity. I got angry at her and asked her why she would do that to me, but her reaction this time truly broke my heart. She confessed that I wasn't giving her enough attention, so she looked for it elsewhere. But in her opinion, it didn't matter because we can move on together after she gives birth. She said she stuck by my side even when I was ignoring her, and that a small affair could be easily forgiven since I probably still loved her. She said it was my punishment for neglecting her. I called her crazy and said that I could never move on from being cheated on, and that our marriage was over. She kept mentioning the baby again and again, so I asked her to get a paternity test. We hadn't slept with each other in so long that I was sure the baby belonged to the man in the videos, and not me. She obviously denied that, but I didn't care. I told her to get out of my house and only come back if the paternity test shows that the baby is mine. I immediately called my lawyer and he arranged for the divorce papers. I was scared because I remembered her texts about wringing me dry in the divorce and running away with the money. But I wasn't going to let her do that in a million years. My cheating girlfriend ruined my life because she was insecure, so I abandoned her in another country. It's been a month since I abandoned my girlfriend in another country after I found out she was cheating on me. Honestly, all the moments about her insecurity finally made sense. She was talking about me cheating because she was already doing it, so she wanted me to do it too. She wanted to get away with her horrible deeds by making it out as payback in kind. But thankfully, I caught her before I bought a ring for her. Anyway, after I got home, she began calling me and texting me, asking where I was. She also realized that all the luggage was actually empty, and began cursing me out. I revealed to her that I had actually found out about her cheating, and this was my way of getting revenge. She went absolutely ballistic, accusing me of several crimes. Then began her usual shtick of gaslighting, saying how could I abandon her in a place where she could potentially get unalived. Just in case you're wondering, that country has one of the lowest crime rates in the world, and is safer than the house we lived in. So I ignored everything she said, and just began working on getting her stuff out of my house. I was the primary on the lease, so I could kick her out with no problems. I packed up all her stuff and left it on the road. I'm pretty sure that some people thought it was trash, picked through it, but I didn't care. She had gotten her dad to book her a flight home because guess what? Her cheating partner didn't care about her enough to help. She called the police when she saw that I had thrown all her stuff out. But they were quick to dismiss the case when I showed them my lease agreement, and that she was no longer on it. She realized that she had just lost her home, and tried to attack me in her rage. I guess she forgot that even though she was the one who called the cops, they can still arrest her. When they asked me if I wanted to press charges, I proudly said yes and watched her get dragged off as she yelled curse words at me. After that, I didn't hear much about her. She was bailed out by, once again, her dad, and went to live with her parents. I cut contact with all mutual friends who had kept quiet about her cheating. Some of them tried to argue with me, telling me that abandoning her in another country was going too far. So I simply showed them the screenshots of her texts with that man, and how much it hurt me. They were quiet after that, because they had partners too and finally realized what she had been doing. Literally all of them kicked her out of their friends group and isolated her, so she not only lost her boyfriend, but also all of her friends. My ex wants me back after I was framed for cheating 4 years ago. My ex divorced me and now wants to be together again after 4 years. We were college sweethearts and married at 26. Right before we got married, I gave birth to a beautiful daughter who's now 21 years old. I loved both of them dearly, and we've been a happy family for about 16 years before everything went down. Our only problem was my ex's mother. She always had a strong dislike for me. She never thought I was good enough for her baby boy. We had many fights, and my ex cut contact with her after the wedding when she tried wearing white to it. We had many encounters with her years after that, sending us gifts for my daughter and purposely trying to get us to contact her again to see her outside our house. 4 years ago, I got home from work to see my ex and his mom together on the couch. My ex was on the verge of tears, yelling and calling me a cheater. I tried to explain I didn't, but his mother supposedly had proof, saying she saw me with another man out in a restaurant together. I'm very faithful and loyal, but he refused to hear me out. We got into a big argument before he packed up and left to stay with his mother. When my daughter got home from a friend's house, she too started to blame me when she found out from her dad. She went to live with her dad while he sent out divorce papers. It took about a year before it was finalized. He got custody of her, and I was granted visitation rights, but she never wanted to see me. It took a long time to move on. I sought therapy and fell into a huge depression. I knew my ex's mother made it up to tear us apart. I can't believe he listened to her so carelessly. I don't blame my daughter, but it still hurts. I moved out of the house to allow my ex and my daughter to live there. I ended up moving to a small apartment. It's been 4 years, and I have finally started to be happy again. I made new friends. We had so much fun and I got a promotion at work. I still miss my family, my daughter, but I couldn't do anything about it. 2 days ago, my daughter called me. It's been 4 years since I've last seen or heard from her. She said that my ex's mother admitted to lying. She said that my ex got a new girlfriend and his mother was furious, claiming he shouldn't have one after all the trouble she did to get rid of me. They got into a heated fight before he kicked his mom out. I nearly wanted to cry. I thought she would never admit it, and now I'm listening to my daughter. She asked to meet up and apologized so many times. I told her we could meet tomorrow. Yesterday, I met her at a restaurant, but she brought along my ex. Something she never mentioned, nor have I agreed upon. He was apologizing, saying how much he missed me and that he dumped his girlfriend. He wanted us to be together again. I excused myself and left them there. I got back home to lots of phone calls from my daughter and text messages from her. She wanted us to talk, and she called me an asshole for leaving. I told her I wasn't comfortable and that she needed to understand. I had to mute my phone and put it down for a bit. I haven't responded yet, and I'm not sure what to do. I love her, but I can't talk to her with him there. Not yet anyways. It feels so fast. I wanted to do it one-on-one. I'm deeply hurt and crying as I'm typing this. I don't know what to do. 2 days ago, I texted my daughter to set some boundaries after the ambush attack at the restaurant. As we were talking, she mentioned new information about my ex and why he chose his mother's side over me. Earlier that morning, his mother confessed that she had paid an ex-friend of ours to lie directly in my ex-husband's face, claiming to be my affair partner. Mind you, I never had cheated in the first place. My ex took that as solid evidence and divorced me because of it. His mother is a master manipulator and had him around her finger throughout his childhood, so I'm not surprised why he'd take her side. He didn't know that the confession was fake until a few days ago. I wasn't even aware of the entire thing for 4 years. No one had brought it up to me. My daughter gave me the silent treatment. My ex's mother obviously wouldn't tell me a thing to me, and probably told my ex-husband to keep quiet and to only focus on the divorce. I'm still really saddened, but everything makes sense. I was so mad at him for leaving me over her word, but it was much more than that. Besides that, I decided to give my daughter another chance. She will not know where I live or any personal information to indicate where I am. I'm keeping low contact on her. I don't want her spreading it to her father or other people. I'll only show up during important events. Graduation, weddings, etc. I know my ex-husband will also attend. If that's the case, then so be it. I requested my daughter to put her father on the phone. He, of course, apologized so many times and hoped we could have another chance as well. He said he'd do anything to make it up and that he loves me. I said no. I explained that I was keeping him no contact and that I was heartbroken when he didn't communicate to me about the cheating allegations and only assumed that I was practically homeless for a short time and needed to see a therapist to help move on. That I wanted to be left alone and currently not interested in another relationships. Then, I gave him a new email in case of emergencies directly involving our daughter. Anything else I will discard. That was the only time I spoke to him in the past 2 days. I've been talking to my daughter, setting boundaries and whatnot. She gave small updates about what was going on with her side. They went no contact with my ex's mother, so that's good. I told her never to contact that woman again. She also apologized about her behavior at the restaurant, and that it won't happen again. I understand that emotions were running high and everyone was tensed. I forgave her. I still really love her. Mistakes can happen. My friend said to sue my ex's mother. I spoke to my therapist about it earlier today. She said it wasn't wise to do so. It'll put more emotional distress on me and that I might have to see her again and may relapse into a depressive state. I really don't want that. I don't want anything to do with that woman again. All I want to do is focus on myself and on my daughter. I want to rebuild our relationship, and it will be ruined if I do something drastic as in suing my ex's mother. I won't be pressing charges unless something else happens to the point where police are involved. That would be different. Other than that, I'm taking a break. My daughter can text me anytime she wants, but I did say that I may not always reply since I want to remain low contact as of now.
My awful husband slept with my mom a day before we got married. I only found out 2 years later because he felt guilty. Plus update. My husband and I have been married for 2 years and everything has been great until my life went up in flames yesterday. My husband confessed something terrible to me out of guilt. It all started at his bachelor's party. He overdid it with the drinks and got really intoxicated. He said the next morning he didn't remember anything after a certain point. I didn't think much of it because he practically blacked out. Looking back at it now, he was acting really off, but again I brushed it off and assumed it was wedding jitters. Well, he told me that he did remember coming home the night of his bachelor's party, which was when my mom, who was staying with us that week for the wedding, seduced him. He went along with it and they slept together in her bed. He passed out and was there with her the whole night. Thing is, my bachelorette party was the same night, so I came home around 3 a.m. and didn't see him in our bed. I texted him that I made it home safe and that I loved him. I had assumed he spent the night at a friend's house because he said he might do that if things got crazy. But he was actually with my mom. Right in the room next door to me. The next morning, he quietly slipped out while I was still asleep and got into our bed, pretending he'd just come home after sleeping off the doctor-in-kindness at his friend's. If that wasn't bad enough, he had slept with her again in Thai time. He initiated it. We literally got married the very next day. I can't believe this. My mom is also to blame. She has a history of trying to flirt with guys I've dated and being inappropriate with them. My husband knew this. We'd laughed about it and he assured me he would never in a million years think she was attractive. What the F? I called her last night and just said, my husband told me everything. She spent several minutes pretending not to know what I was talking about. Then when that didn't work, she denied everything and said he was making it up. Then she claimed she woke up to my husband forcing himself on her. The sheer audacity of the BS she is capable of is beyond any disgust I can properly convey. I ended the call and I could not stop crying. She refused to even admit the truth, let alone take any responsibility or apologize. I'm not even worth basic honesty in my own mother's eyes. I'm not even worth a half I'm sorry to her. Does she think I'm stupid? Why keep lying to someone who knows you're lying unless you actually think they'd fall for your crap? Everything feels unreal. I'm completely lost and almost feel like I dreamed this or something. In just a few hours, I lost the 2 most important people in my life because they decided that I wasn't as important to them as having a quick F. I hope it was the best 5 minutes of their lives. And sure, maybe my husband didn't come home that night with the planned intention of sleeping with her. He probably didn't, and it was just horrible judgment from overdrinking. That doesn't change the fact he and my mom slept together. Especially since my mom knew exactly what she was doing and didn't feel guilty at all. I cannot imagine remaining in a marriage where my spouse has effed my mom. Literally 2 nights before our wedding. There's simply no coming back from that, but turns out, he didn't tell me the whole truth. Update: considering my husband was intoxicated when the incident happened, I suspected that my mom had taken advantage of him. So I asked. There was a long pause. He sighed and gave me this look that was just full of guilt and sadness, and then basically said that it would be easy to go with the out I was giving him, but I deserved the full truth. He then proceeded to tell me that before that night, they had been texting for several months. He had not told me this the first time he confessed. He went on to tell me more, explaining that he left this out because the biggest issue was the actual cheating and he hadn't wanted to hurt me by giving all the let-up details. They had been texting, including exchanging naked pictures, for a few months before the wedding. Now, I had known they texted sometimes. They always had a friendly relationship. I hadn't ever suspected anything weird because he'd been adamant that he'd never think of her sexually. He can't explain why they started texting beyond he got caught up in the thrill of doing something forbidden. There were implications made about wanting to do things in real life as a one-night thing should the opportunity ever arise. I'm so disgusted with him and can't fathom the fact I ever trusted him. But it doesn't even end there. The texting between them was going on during his bachelor party. So what I said in my first post about how he probably didn't come home intending to sleep with her. Yep, that was wrong, he did. In fact, him telling me he was going to stay overnight with his friend if he got too intoxicated was all part of the setup. He knew I'd be out very late at a show. He had the presence of mind to arrange a way to leave his party earlier in the night, go home, F my mother, and already have given me a plausible explanation for appearing not to be home when I got back at 3 a.m. so that he could spend that one night with her. It was just that important to him to have the full experience of falling asleep after intimacy and waking up next to each other. He reiterated that he had been aware the whole time of what he was doing. He was not as intoxicated as he'd made it seem the next morning when he claimed not to remember anything that happened. So just to be clear again, while he did get intoxicated, at no point did he black out or become totally wasted to the point he was incapable of controlling his decisions and body. He said since that night he hadn't texted her at all except about logistical details of visits, and one text he sent her the day after. That one he said it would never happen again and she'd lose me if I knew, correct, so she better never let it slip. She agreed. He claims everything between them since then has been a normal mother-in-law relationship. Do I believe that? It doesn't matter because he lied for 2 years and then lied by omission in his first confession about the months-long build-up to the affair. During that time I was bonding with my mother over wedding planning. For once, it seemed we were having a great mother-daughter relationship. It's just effing sick. My mom has not contacted me at all since I confronted her, which is fine by me because I never want to see or hear from her again. It's almost like she died. I don't have a mom anymore. I'm proceeding with divorce and have gotten in touch with an attorney. I kicked him out of the house because I can't be near him. I'm not looking forward to a legal battle whatsoever, but there's no possible way to remain married after all this. To this day, he doesn't know why he did it. I have my own suspicions based on things he said in the past about wishing he'd had more intimate partners before me, because he felt like he had missed out on his youth. Maybe that was my clue I wasn't enough for him. I should have listened, but I let him and his friends talk me into believing I must be enough or he wouldn't be with me. They said that all guys have regrets like that and sacrifice them for the right woman. Clearly that wasn't me. He also struggles with overuse of adult films sometimes. Stepmom is his favorite genre. It never struck me as anything other than a dumb adult films thing. Whatever. I won't be dating for a long time because I'm obviously colorblind to red flags. My mother-in-law turned my husband against me and unalived our future family. My husband and I have been married for 3 years. From the very beginning, his mother has never approved of me. I'm Filipino, and she told me that Filipinos are maids only. At the beginning my husband defended me. He even threatened to cut ties with her if she tried anything. So she backed off. He proposed to me and that's where trouble slowly started again. She was not happy. My sister-in-law told me that my mother-in-law didn't expect us to last so long cause she expected my husband to come to his senses. She tried to jeopardize our wedding, threatened not to come, even told our guests that there was a typo in our invitation card and gave them the wrong date. Luckily they confirmed it with us and we got it sorted. She showed up drunk to the wedding and objected when we were saying our vows, but thankfully everyone ignored her. My husband actually waved it off and said that his mom is just scared for him and that I should understand because she grew up in a very traditional home. That should have been my first red flag. But I was so in love with him that I ignored it. I was 8 months pregnant a month ago. My husband insisted on going to mother-in-law's house for a family reunion. I didn't want to because of the human growing in me and too tired because I was still working. He insisted because his mom will not take no for an answer. So we went. Biggest regret of my life. At the dinner, I started feeling weird and lightheaded. I told my husband about it but he waved me off, told me to go up to his old room and lay down. I said this was different, and we should go to the hospital just in case. His mom butted in and told me not to ruin their dinner, to just shut up and go upstairs. I gave my husband a look and said, "You really gonna let her talk to me like that?" That jerk just shrugged and told me to calm down. I did not go up. I knew something was wrong. I called my dad to get him to bring me to the hospital. I felt like I was floating, my body felt numb and I wanted to puke. I felt like fainting. Dad arrived and I left without letting them know. I don't know how else to say this, but my baby's heartbeat stopped. I was told the chances at this point of pregnancy was low, but it happened. I also had alcohol and substances in my system. But I didn't drink any since I was pregnant and I don't do substances. Sister-in-law later admitted she saw mother-in-law added stuff into my drinks and food later on. My husband refused to believe that and sided with mother-in-law, saying I must have taken something accidentally. I reported it to the police, sister-in-law as my witness. I pressed charges, nothing was done about it. My cheating husband thought I would forgive him because he's too good for me. But I divorced him and he ended up on the streets. The divorce papers said that I wanted 50% of all his assets, and that his house was to be transferred in my name. He is probably going to end up on the streets if he loses, but I literally didn't care anymore. As soon as he received the papers, he called me screaming, "What do you think you are doing? Come back right now because I am throwing these fake papers in the trash." I told him that they weren't fake, and that this was actually happening. I also made sure to record the call so I could use it as evidence later on. So I was really thankful when he began preaching about how I was inferior to him, and should be glad that he stayed with me for so long. I told him to get off his high horse, because he was talking like a true scumbag. That was the last straw for him, and he absolutely lost it. He called me several degrading names, and even insulted my performance in bed as a way to make me feel bad. But I never said anything back, and when he stopped yelling, I just asked, "Are you done?" He was too shocked by the fact that I was actually standing up to him for once, and couldn't say anything back. I hung up on him and immediately sent the record to my lawyer, who assured me that this is going to help a lot. I had forgotten to take pictures of his chat history, so he actually had a way to fight the divorce. But during the call he ended up confessing to everything and made things much easier for me. From then on, the divorce proceedings were a breeze. I made sure to squeeze out every penny that I could from him, and he had no way to fight it. His cheating was also exposed to all his friends and family, and most of them cut him off. His parents called me to apologize for their son's behavior, and told me that they disowned him but would like to maintain a relationship with me. I agreed, because they are good people and their son's crimes aren't their fault. I am now back in the house that I won in the divorce, and my ex-husband is gone. None of his friends are willing to let him stay with them because they don't trust him anymore. I think he's most likely going to go to the girl he cheated with, or end up on the street. Either way, I got my justice.
Am I the a-hole for expecting my date to cover the cleaning cost of a dress he ruined? I, 27F, am in a bit of a dilemma and could really use some advice. I've been seeing this guy for a couple months, and we decided to go to a nice high-end restaurant for a date. Initially I was going to wear a nice dark blue dress that I like to wear out, but he asked me to wear a different white dress that I had shown him once as it matched his outfit. I've never had a guy ask me this. The white dress in question was a gift from my late grandmother and was quite expensive, so I was reluctant but agreed and just asked that we didn't go anywhere after where I might spill something on it or otherwise mess it up. He mentioned clubbing after dinner, which is why I said that. I didn't want to risk messing the dress up, and he said we could just go to dinner and I could change out of it before doing anything else. Great. However, the evening took a turn for the worse when he accidentally spilled his red wine all over my dress. He had gotten an unexpected call, and when he tried to quickly mute his ringer, his elbow hit his glass and it spilled all over the lap area of my dress before I could react. It was completely drenched and stained. He was apologetic at the time, and I tried to be cool about it, but inside, I was devastated, especially since I had mentioned specifically how I wanted to be careful wearing it. Later, I mentioned to him that the dress was very expensive and asked if he'd be willing to help with the cost of cleaning and replacing it. To get it professionally cleaned and the stain removed would cost $100, which I asked him to pay half of. To my surprise, he got quite defensive. He argued that it was an accident and that I was being unreasonable for expecting him to pay for something like that, and that it was my fault for wearing it out knowing that it could have happened. I feel like it's a matter of principle. Yes, it was an accident, but the dress is ruined, and it was extremely sentimental to me, not to mention a valuable dress. He thinks I'm being materialistic and making a big deal out of nothing. Now, I'm not sure how to feel about his reaction. Am I the a-hole for expecting him to cover the cost?
Dear my husband's coworker, stop trying to spread your legs for my husband. I know you looked through this website after you got advice here telling you to come clean to me about your affair with my husband. I personally couldn't find a thread that fits the description, but could be the wrong sub or you deleted it, so if you read this and it sounds familiar then yes, it's about you. I have no plans of speaking to you in the future, but I want to make a few things clear. Yes, I do remember when we first met at the Christmas party and you kept trying to get my husband alone to talk. You pouted so much when he refused I thought you would quack. Do you remember how all of his colleagues were friendly with me? I remember when you approached my husband and I walking home from my birthday dinner. I'm pretty sure this was a coincidence, but seeing my husband practically jump away from you trying to hug him was the highlight of my night. I know my husband is hot, of course I know. I married him and had kids with him, but I bet you didn't know because you have only been at the company for a few months that your coworkers used to be my coworkers. I know all about you trying to get him alone after meetings, not only straight from my husband because you make him feel uncomfortable but also from them. Did you think he wouldn't talk to me after you accidentally sent him 2 provocative photos on 2 separate occasions? Did you think you could really get him? Did you look at his Instagram and think, wow, I want that life, I just need to lie to his wife and it's all mine? Do you think knocking on my door when I'm hosting a dinner party to hand me printouts of your conversations with him I would go off on the deep end and divorce him? I'm pretty sure HR has spoken to you already about your inappropriate behavior and misuse of his personnel file. I'm sure you are shocked maybe you didn't think my husband would report it. I don't know what repercussions you will get and I don't care. If you come near me, my husband, our kids or our nice home again, police will be called. A word of advice: if you're going to fabricate messages you might want to get rid of the wrong number or at least replace it with a name.
My Christian wife wants to send our teen daughter to conversion camp because she's lesbian. When my daughter found out, she did something horrible. My wife has always been really religious and that never bothered me before, but she went too far last night. Our daughter said she had something really serious to talk to us about. She ended up coming out to us as a lesbian. I was really glad that she was able to trust us with something like this because I could tell she was really nervous during our talk. I told her that her sexuality doesn't change how we feel about her in any way, that we were proud of her, and we would always support her. By the end of it, she hugged us and said she loved us. Then she went to her room and I asked my wife how she felt because I noticed that she was very silent throughout the whole conversation. She only nodded and agreed to what I was saying. She said that she needed some time to think about what was discussed. I told her there was nothing to think about. Our daughter is a lesbian and there's nothing we can do about that besides support her and be happy for her. It's as simple as that. She just kept repeating that I needed to give her time to process all of this. I have never seen my wife act this way before and it caught me off guard. I do know that she's struggling to deal with this because she's Christian and thinks that homosexuality is inherently wrong, but she never expressed malicious intent. Even so, this is our daughter we're talking about and she has to deal with this in the best way possible. Today, my wife acted very cold and harsh towards my daughter. Whenever my daughter tried to talk to her, She would ignore her and only respond when my daughter badgered an answer out of her. She came to me to talk about my wife's behavior and she said that she thinks telling us was a bad idea because her mom is acting really weird around her. She thinks that her mom hates her now. I tried my best to reassure her that her mom loves her. And we just have to give her time to adjust to this new change. I told her that I was going to talk to her mom about it, but everything was going to be okay in the end. Me and my big mouth. Later that night, I was talking to my wife and demanded to know why she was treating our daughter like she had just done something horribly wrong. She answered by saying that what she was doing was wrong. We needed to send her to a conversion camp immediately to help her realize she was committing so many sins, and she wasn't going to go to heaven now. I was shocked. I told her she was going to put her own feelings aside for the sake of our daughter because she is 16 and needs all the love and support we have to offer. I wasn't going to let her make our daughter feel like a bad person for something she can't control. It took so much courage for our daughter to tell us, given that she also knows that my wife is religious. How do I get my wife to accept my daughter's sexuality and stop viewing it as a bad thing? Update: it's been over 2 years since my original post, and over 1 year since I lost my daughter to suicide. My wife couldn't accept my daughter for who she was and was really adamant on sending her to conversion camp. My daughter found out and cried a lot. She said she wished she was straight so that her mom could love her. That broke my heart. I kept having talks with my wife to get her behavior to change, but she kept avoiding my daughter like she was the plague. The final straw was when I saw her searching up the nearest conversion camps and calling them. We got into a huge fight and told her there was no coming back from this. So, we began the divorce process. She moved out and went to live with her parents, whom my daughter absolutely adored. They of course sided with my wife when they found out, resulting in my daughter being even more devastated. The amount of nights where I held my daughter in my arms as she cried herself to sleep at night asking why she had to be the way she was, why her mother hated her, asking again and again if I hated her despite how many times I would tell her I love her unconditionally, including her sexuality, were too many to count. I put my daughter into actual therapy to help her try to process all of this. I cut back my work shifts to work less hours to try to be there for her. I tried to keep anything related to the divorce as private as I could because I didn't want her stressing about that even more. I keep on thinking what I could have done to stop that day. What else I could have done, what else I could have said. Every day I wake up thinking I should have done more. She left a note explaining how it's not my fault, but what else am I supposed to think? I haven't talked to my ex-wife for 8 months now. I'm in therapy, but to be honest I don't think it's working. Sometimes I wander into her room, sit on her bed, and sob for what feels like hours. I keep on expecting to see her walk home from school. To see her smile, to hear her laugh from down the hall. I miss you more than anything, Jesse. I'm sorry.
My narcissistic husband thought that I slept with his gay friend and demanded a paternity test, so I divorced him and left him miserable. I have been married to my husband for 5 years and we just had our second child. Our first child was a son with blonde hair and freckled skin, a splitting image of my husband. I have naturally red hair by the way, and my husband loves my hair. But for some reason he was glad that our son wasn't a redhead. He was very proud and bragged a lot about how his genes were superior than mine and that's why our son looked so much like him. In fact, the only time he stopped talking about it was when I got pregnant again. Throughout the 9 months, he kept telling everyone that our second child was also going to be a blonde and there was no way to prevent this. I thought this was weird but funny, and went along with him by saying yeah, I also think the baby will have blonde hair. He was really excited because this time we were having a daughter instead of a son. However, his tone completely changed once I gave birth. Our daughter was the opposite of our son, and a complete splitting image of me. She had beautiful red hair and I was so happy for her because she was going to become the most beautiful girl in the world. But my husband showed a concerning lack of happiness. Even before we left the hospital, he kept commenting that the red hair on our daughter was just temporary. And that his genes were just taking their time but would eventually prevail, she would also end up having blonde hair. Again, I didn't get why he was saying all this, but I didn't pay much attention to it. It did bother me that he would avoid holding her, or taking care of her, but I convinced myself that it was nothing. A few weeks later, we held a baby shower for our daughter and my husband invited his gay friend. I surprisingly got along with him since we had a lot in common, and we talked a lot during the party. He also had red hair, but it was obvious that he had dyed it from black, while me and my daughter were natural. He was constantly complimenting how my daughter had the best colored hair and I was really happy. But my husband would sometimes interrupt us, and once again exclaim that the red hair was only temporary. I ended up asking him why he was so adamant on this topic. He explained that since our son had blonde hair, it meant that all our children should be the same because that's how genes work. I tried to explain to him that that wasn't the case at all, but he didn't listen. Anyway, a few days passed and I thought that my husband had finally dropped the topic. But out of nowhere, he came up to me and began demanding a paternity test. That really shocked me because he had never said anything about this before, and with our first child. He was essentially accusing me of cheating on him, something that I would never do. I said that I loved him, so why was he asking for such a thing? He refused to explain and just said that he wanted to be sure. I asked, be sure of what? And kept pressing him to tell me why he was being so suspicious. Being accused of cheating was actually very painful for me, and I wanted to know how he came to that conclusion. After a bit more pressing, he finally cracked and blew up on me while telling me the reason. I saw how you kept talking to my friend at the party. You never talked that much with another guy, so it was obvious what was going on. I knew that my genes would never lose to yours. So the only reason that your second child has red hair is because she isn't my daughter. You probably slept with him and kept it hidden from me. He also has red hair, so it explains everything. His reasoning was absolutely ridiculous, and I reminded him that his friend was gay and already married to another man. Also, he had dyed his hair and his natural hair color was black. I asked him why he couldn't just accept that our daughter looked like me, and her hair color wasn't an unnatural phenomenon that needed to be explained. But he kept telling me to shut up, and that he was getting a paternity test no matter what. The weirdest part was that he wanted a paternity test between our daughter and his friend, instead of our daughter and him. By that point, I had already broken into tears because he was refusing to believe me no matter what. He said that he was leaving, and wouldn't come back home until I had gotten that test done and proved that he was right, and that I had cheated on him. The moment he left, I hugged my daughter and son close to my chest, and cried for a good hour. Then I called my sister to come pick me up because I was leaving. I packed all my clothes and took my kids with me. I just texted my husband that we were over, and that I was going to divorce him. It turns out, he wasn't expecting me to fight back and thought that I would do exactly as he said. He quickly began apologizing for doubting me, and urged me to come back home with the kids. He sent me selfies to prove that he hadn't stopped crying, and was miserable without me. Apparently, he had also accused his gay friend of infidelity, and gotten punched by his husband. The news of his accusations had spread and his entire friend group had cut him off, so he was completely alone now. He said that me and the kids were all he had. But while he was typing, he messed up and ended up saying that his suspicions were 100% justified. So I just blocked him after saying, "Kids? I thought you said you only have one kid. But don't worry, they will be taken care of by someone who loves them for who they are, and not just their hair color." Ex-husband and his new wife made a wooden, steel brace and forced my daughter to wear it. My daughter is 9 and we share custody by alternating weeks. My daughter says her back hurts now and her arm is tingling. I have a doctor's appointment for her on Monday, and in the meantime I am trying to remain calm. I confronted my ex-husband about it and all she would say was one text message where he said his new wife didn't like how my daughter slouched at the dinner table. They aren't doctors and there is nothing wrong with her that she needs a brace. I effing want to unalive both of them. Is there a way I can get a quick court date or see a judge because I don't want her going back there? When we divorced it took a long time to figure out custody. Update, I called into work while I was trying to get all this sorted. One of my coworkers has a cousin who is a lawyer and she knew someone who was able to help me and file the paperwork. My husband played dumb in court but his visits got reduced to supervised and he was ordered to take a parenting class. My daughter went to physiotherapy. Eventually the court reinstated his visitation when he swore he had learned his lesson and was sorry, and with his otherwise clean record the court agreed. I was against it but the court ruled against me. I gave my daughter her own cell phone so she could call me whenever she needed to. On her second visit it happened again. This time the brace had steel and fabric instead of wood and they took her phone too. The next night she left when they weren't looking and went up the street to a neighbor who was a police officer. The neighbor called paramedics and her coworkers. They had to cut the brace off my daughter. My husband and his wife were arrested. They got out quickly but they have been charged and their infant is with CPS. My ex lost visitation and custody and I'm working on making it permanent. Unfortunately my daughter's shoulder was dislocated from the brace. It set back her rehab and part of her arm is still numb and tingling. She needed surgery and is still recovering. She always played sports, especially at school, and did dance but the doctor thinks she won't ever be able to lift her arm all the way up again. I hate my ex and he'll see her again over my effing dead body. Right now I'm focusing on my daughter while my lawyer takes care of things. My cheating boyfriend slept with my sister 2 days before our wedding, so I dumped him and took a trip to Europe with his money. It's been a week since I broke my wedding off with my cheating fiancé and ran off to Europe. There's a few things that I want to clarify. Apparently, me booking that trip emptied his bank account. But since I have blocked him on everything, he's been trying to reach me through mutual friends. Although, after I explained the situation to them, they were more than happy to block him too. So he's been losing friends on top of his marriage. As for my sister, she's been sending me texts and voicemails, apologizing for her actions and begging me to come back. She's telling me to think of all the money we put into the wedding, and how it's all going to waste. But little does she know, I never put a single cent in from my pocket. I haven't blocked her because honestly, her suffering gives me satisfaction. The entire family has decided to cut her off and ignore her like she's the plague. I told my parents everything even before I left, and thankfully they are on my side. They even called me yesterday informing me that they are going to cut my sister off from their will and inheritance. As for how I am doing, I would love to say that I'm enjoying Europe to the fullest without any on my mind, but that would be a lie. I'm still having trouble sleeping because I keep remembering what I saw. I even tried hooking up with a European guy, but it didn't help and in fact just made it worse. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I am still engaged, so what I did was actually cheating. It made me so disgusted that I had to throw up and tell him to leave. I guess even though my now ex was a betraying backstabber, I can't do what he said even if it's to get back at him. But regardless, there's still a lot of time left, and I'm going to do my best to enjoy my relaxed trip. Also, my ex has decided not to press any charges on how I used his card for this. Apparently, he's still holding on to some hope that I will come back and forgive him. But that will never happen. I will remember what he did until the day I pass away, and will never forgive him. Not only did he cheat on me, he also destroyed 4 years of my life.
My gold digger wife divorced me and took all my stuff. Years later I won the lottery, but she came back and demanded I share the money with her. It has been a few months since I won the lottery and my wife called, saying that she deserves some of it. But I had changed from when she left me, and wasn't going to let her walk all over me again. I rejected her idea of me just peacefully sending her the money. She tried to threaten me with court, thinking that I would once again be scared of public humiliation. But I stood my ground and taunted her that she had no case. However, I also had a brilliant idea. My father had begun studying the law alongside me, and suggested that we taunt her into taking us to court. She clearly has no chance of winning, but in her arrogance, she won't be able to see that. As a result, she would have to pay her lawyer a large sum of money out of her own pocket. And that is exactly what happened. After she left me, she had a string of lovers but no man wanted to marry her, so she was alone. She was struggling to find a proper job and desperately wanted the money that I won, so she took me to court. But guess what? The judge literally laughed when he read what the case was about. The hearing didn't even last an hour and the case was dismissed. She had to use all her savings to pay her lawyer, and ended up going bankrupt. I heard that her parents sold their house and moved to a smaller one to help her with expenses. But weirdly enough, I never once felt sorry for her. I did pity her, but that was it. I didn't even consider helping her or sharing some of the money. I guess I had truly moved on even though I clearly remember how much I loved her in the past. Since the court proceedings are over including the tax filings for my winnings, I am now free to do whatever I want. I have booked a trip to Dubai with my parents and am planning to spoil them until they are satisfied. They took me back in when I had nothing left and always supported me, so I'm doing my best to repay them. Also, I want to thank everyone who supported me and gave me courage in the comments. There were some maniacs who tried to threaten me, but the good far outweighed the evil. Listening to all your stories, I am glad I got justice in mine and wish you all the best in yours.
My husband's sister is in love with him plus update. My husband and I met each other at a ski lodge 9 years ago. Many mutual friends attended and there was a singing competition and both of us were set up by our friends to enter it. Sparks flew during our duet and the rest is history. This was the first time I caught on to my sister-in-law, Tina's, disturbing behavior. After the singing competition, he and I went to the cafe to chat. Tina came storming up to us and demanded he come back to their group. She never looked at me and whined when he shut her down. She ran off crying and apparently took her sister's room key cards and locked them out so they had to stay with the friends in their room. Fast forward to when we bought a house together. We had a housewarming and invited family and close friends. Tina showed up in a suggestive club outfit. She ignored me the entire time and hung all over my husband. She kept recalling tales of them when they were little and how close they were. She'd kiss him on the cheek, hug him, and touch his arm when laughing. He was visibly uncomfortable so I stepped in. She was going around reminding everyone that he used to say he never wanted to have kids, but now he's playing daddy to my daughter, as I have one from a previous marriage. One of my friends said she thought Tina was weird for talking about how hot his modeling photos were when he did print work back in college and that her favorite photo was of them at a beach in Hawaii during a family vacation a few years back. The most bizarre thing she told a few people was that he had never dated a woman of color before and now all of a sudden he's in love. Then things go south at the end of the night when he gets down on one knee and proposes to me. She started crying and ran to the restroom. Their dad went to check on her and then drove her home. My husband always equated her behavior to jealousy because she never had healthy relationships. After that tantrum, she skipped our wedding, baby shower, our children's birthday parties, and other family events that we attended. I was fine with extending invitations because I knew she wasn't going to show up. She had some sort of mental breakdown and was in and out treatment for years. I'm currently pregnant and our baby shower is at the end of this month. I'm having it a few months early because I'm at risk for going into labor early, like I did with my other 2 children. My mother-in-law called to RSVP and stated Tina would be riding with them and if it was okay if she brought her new boyfriend. I was surprised because we hadn't seen her in years, but I was apprehensive to agree. Eventually, I did agree and hoped that she resolved whatever caused her so much distress when she was around my family. Well, it took all of 24 hours for her to start her nonsense. She texted my husband paragraphs at 3 a.m. telling him how she felt about our family. First, she went on to say how much she missed them being close and how I came in and destroyed their close relationship, when I barely said 50 words to her in 9 years. She asked him if he was happy with his life because again, he used to say he never wanted kids or to get married. She then asked if he thought about her all this time and if he could meet up with him before the shower and talk alone, face to face. That was the last straw for me. I pressed my husband about it and tried resolving this weird issue. Apparently, my husband has known his sister has been mentally ill this way, as when she was 11, she asked if they could cuddle and kiss and he said no. He admits her behavior since then has always been weird and dramatic, but he didn't pay her much attention because there were many siblings and they all hung out all the time. I asked him if he could uninvite her and this new boyfriend because I think she's going to bring drama to our baby shower. He said he wants to talk to his parents first to see what kind of state she's been in, but I know in my gut that she's ready to ruin our day with her theatrics. Update: my husband ran home from work because Tina blew up his phone, texting and calling. Now, my husband always texts or calls me on his lunch break to check on me, even before the pregnancy, so I knew something was wrong when he didn't. Since he left Tina on read, she started calling and sending a slew of unwarranted and degrading texts about me and our children, so basically Tina being Tina. He didn't run it by me, but he sent her a long paragraph, which he showed me when he got home, basically telling her off and told her that he would rather never speak to her again than listen to her talk bad about our family. He told her she would never be invited to any of our family functions and that she needed to check herself back into the hospital if she thought their sibling relationship was ever closer than it actually was. He closed it by saying he would let the family know the reason she was uninvited and that he hoped she's either seeing a therapist or would find one immediately. I'm not surprised at his response because the things she said pushed him to that breaking point. I think the worst thing she said was that my miscarriage years ago, which would have been our first child together, was caused because we don't actually belong together and that my body couldn't even carry any of my children to term. I expected her to bring something like this up, but I could tell it really hurt him, and that's why he didn't hold back from her. He then blocked her and told me he's changing our phone numbers. He called his parents and the oldest sister, whom he is close with, and explained to them why she's never allowed to visit our home. He shared all of their text exchanges, and they were mortified. He asked them not to share our address and when we changed to new numbers. They assured us that none of them shared this information with her because she actually asked for his work schedule and mentioned driving up a day early to surprise him. My father-in-law had the most to say, and I get it. It's his baby girl, but he hadn't shared much info beforehand with anyone besides his wife. Apparently, the dad knew Tina always loved my brother but never saw anything too much of it, and came to accept Tina the way she was. A few years ago, they had a conversation about her behavior, and she told him that she had been keeping a diary about him since she was a teenager. She explained it was to process her emotions and to challenge negative thoughts. All I heard was that she wrote about him for years. So there's several journals in their home, probably enforcing her beliefs. Apparently, she only stayed away from my husband because my father-in-law kept her in check and was able to get her hospitalized several times for being a threat to herself. They told us they would deal with her and apologized for thinking she had resolved her issues. My in-laws are saints, and I thank them for believing us and keeping her away for all these years. Luckily, she's currently living with them due to her issues, so they're going to speak to her tomorrow morning. The other sister-in-law called me when we got off the phone with the in-laws. She told me that she was really sorry because she's the one who hooked the new boyfriend and Tina up and suggested that she show him off at the baby shower, but admitted they had only been dating for like 2 weeks. She said she sent the text Tina sent to my husband to her then boyfriend, so I'm pretty sure they're probably not a thing anymore. I'm kind of nervous how Tina will deal with 2 rejections so close together. The 2 sisters aren't that close, and she was audibly disgusted to find out that her sister has been pining for their brother all these years. She has a theory though. She thinks it started with the older brother, Sean, because when Tina was little, she would follow Sean around all the time. He's older, so he went off to college abroad. Tina was about 10, and then he permanently moved to Europe. It seems like the crush transferred to my husband when Sean left. She suspects Tina has just severe psychological issues and does not see a problem with having a crush on your brother. Sean hasn't been back to the States since he graduated high school, and no one really has contact with him, so she said she can't call and ask him about it. I have to admit I'm kind of curious and would have been interested in hearing what Sean had to say, but I'll rest assured knowing our involvement in the whole thing is over. Edit: we just got a call from the older sister. Tina found out she will never contact my husband again and was devastated. So much so, that she took her own life. Rest in peace, Tina. You were a psychopath, but suicide is no way to go.